How to find Gen X by year: 1985, 2025, 2045. It's Saturday. I'm Akorn, here to remind you of all the stuff you never asked to remember. Let's get into today's show, starting with this week's pop quiz. What 1980s handheld electronic toy let kids play simple digital games on a tiny LCD screen and later inspired the design of the Nintendo Game Boy? If you think you know, drop your answers down in the comments. And stay tuned, because we'll have the answer later on in the show. 5-year-old me confusing Michael Myers with Mike Myers. That's actually pretty funny when you think about it. Walmart ain't playing no games this year. Yeah, that's what they need, and a good number of them too. When Alexander Graham Bell first invented the telephone, he had 3 missed calls from Chuck Norris. Guess he invented caller ID too. 1970, 2025. When your song comes on and you forgot the words. Yeah, that's most of them these days since my TBI, at least for good portions of the song sometimes. If you've ever used one of these towel loops in the 1970s, you're probably immune to everything now. Well, we were, at least back then. When I was a kid, my social network was outside. I'd say a good number of you guys know exactly what this is. Fun fact, Freddy Krueger only has 7 minutes of screen time in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Despite the limited time on screen, the role became a cultural phenomenon. Sure seemed like he had a lot more time than that, though. The summer of 2069 is closer to us than the summer of 1969. Yeah, by over a decade.
Okay. Show me.
If you know what these are, you're old as dirt. What those were was quite a bit of fun, actually. Either used in the toy that they were actually made for, or just putting them on the ground and smacking them with a hammer. I propose Gen X Island, where we can live out the rest of our days with our forgotten peers, watching movies on the VCR, snacking on Jiffy Pop and Tang, Saturday morning cartoons, and tearing up our mouths with Captain Crunch, riding bikes with no helmets, and listening to records. Life was better when this is what we considered a group chat. That is very true. Something that you don't see too much these days. Yeah, time went back. And now sunset is just a few minutes after 5 o'clock. And only in another month or so, it'll be about 4:30, which just ain't right. Still got too much to do before winter gets here. Wife, so how is the new patio coming along? Me, it's okay. Just promise you won't get mad. I think that looks pretty good myself. Good conversation starter. Couldn't you just imagine 10 or 15 years from now, somebody's going to be power washing the patio and they find Mario under it? Remember drinking Vault and giving your family computer 14 viruses just to get one Limp Bizkit track? I really don't remember Vault. What I remember is Jolt Cola. And since it's that kind of bottle, this must be one for you millennials. Before cars crumpled like soda cans, they rolled heavy, loud, and proud. Don't complain about your research project. This was my Google. Yeah, and we didn't have AI to write our papers for us either. Homemade costumes in the 80s were legit. Couldn't you just imagine if a kid showed up to school dressed like that today? They'd probably be expelled before they could even make it in the door. And for that matter, I'll have to censor this kid's face out of the video because the YouTube algorithm will probably flag this as child endangerment or self-harm because they've done it before. The Domino's DeLorean. Pizza delivered so fast, you got it yesterday. They say if you recognize this picture, you're either close to 40 or over 40. Is this true? 'Cause I've never seen it. Yeah, how many of you guys remember the Mac Tonight commercials? Didn't McDonald's eventually get sued over those commercials? Seems like I remember something about that. Today's pop quiz question was, what 1980s handheld electronic toy let kids play simple digital games on a tiny LCD screen and later inspired the design of the Nintendo Game Boy? The answer is the Nintendo Game & Watch. How many of you guys actually remember these? I went to look this up to find a photo, and I came across some of these on eBay. And here's one that you can have for your very own for the low price of only $8,690. That's inflation for you. When someone says they've never seen planes, trains, and automobiles, they need to make these as strong as these. Yeah, I fully agree, but then they wouldn't sell as many cables. If I had spoken to my parents the way kids do nowadays, I wouldn't be here to post this. That is a fact check true. If that had never stopped, we wouldn't have a lot of the problems we have today. Bob Ross. Sure doesn't seem like he's been gone for 30 years already. Study hall in the 1980s. Michael J. Fox adopted Einstein's son after the beloved Back to the Future dog passed away, a touching tribute to the bond he shared with his furry co-star. Name this part. Wrong answers only. That's a spark plug wire tester. What you do is you plug this into the spark plug wire, and then you call your buddy over there, and you tell him, look, I've got to crank the car over. I want you to hold this with both hands, make sure the wire don't come off, and you got to look really closely and see if you can see if there's a spark or not. Because if there's no spark, then this is a bad plug wire. Legal disclaimer. Do not do this. This video is for entertainment purposes only. The real ones know. Cures for every sickness I had as a kid. Fact check true. I still keep ginger ale on hand when your stomach is feeling off or whatever. The thing is, you have to make sure that the ginger ale you buy actually has real ginger oil in it, because if it doesn't, it's worthless. Canada Dry is one of the few brands that you'll see in the store that still has real ginger oil in it. Zevia is another brand that has it as well. Have you guys heard about the apparent connection between Back to the Future and the Goonies? That for whatever reason, they both apparently took place on the same day? I never heard about it before until about a week ago or so, but I think this video clip here explains it pretty well.
There's a crazy theory that this day in time was the same day as the original Back to the Future. The present day was October 26, 1985. We know for a fact Goonies happened on a Saturday. Mouth said, what is this, a nuclear Saturday at the beginning?
Right.
And they're not in school, right? We do know it's October. Brand is doing sit-ups, and there's a calendar that says October. And there's a newspaper in this scene that they find with the Fratellis, and it says October 24th, 1985, with the Fratellis being at large. It's got their photos. So we're like assuming that this is 2 days later on October 26th, Saturday. This magical date and time happened. Back to the Future and Goonies, same day.
Wow.
He really was my buddy until I saw Child's Play. Not so much after that, huh? I wonder if their sales and stock prices dropped after that movie come out. Not just to him, but pretty much all dolls or whatever category these would fall under. When I was a teenager, I could make tie-dyed shirts, develop film in a darkroom, take photos with a pinhole camera, program a VCR, repair cassette tapes with a pencil, get records to stop skipping with a penny, and now I'm like, I don't get how to use this credit card tap thing. Well, there is a good reason for that though. Most of the time the stupid things never work. And anymore, half the time, the chip readers don't even work right without having to do it 2 or 3 times. Vanilla Ice turns 58. If that's a recent photo, doesn't look like he's changed much. There's a new guy at work named Wayne Bruce, and I said, Man Bat, my old nemesis. Nobody got it. My talent is wasted here. So many great memories. F Troop. Who remembers this old Western comedy? I can't say that I ever remember seeing it, but for some reason it seems vaguely familiar. My dad used to watch a lot of Westerns and things, mostly John Wayne, but that could be where I remember it from. I'm not sure. Time to break out the snow socks. I certainly hope not. I'm glad that the summer heat is over, and I'm glad that most of the bugs has went away, except for the ladybugs that's currently swarming here. But I still don't want any snow. All snow is more headaches and more work. At this point, I'm willing to pay more money for appliances with 0 smart features and just physical knobs, buttons, and controls for everything. Yeah, if you can find the old mechanical style washers and dryer sets, if they're in decent shape, they're worth having repaired. You just need the right repair shop to do it. Something else. A lot of these repair shops are actually rescuing a lot of the old mechanical washers and dryers, or even some of the earlier electronic models that still didn't have the mess of computers in them. So if you was looking for something like that, you might check with some of those kind of shops. They may already have a set that they've repaired. Something else you can do is if you find one, you can repair it yourself. I have a washer-dryer stack unit from the early 90s that was in the house when we moved here, and I replaced the motor on the washer about 9 or 10 years ago, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I completely disassembled it, thoroughly cleaned everything, replaced all of the wear and consumable parts, also had to replace the heating element and the bearing in the dryer, and some other odds and ends. But at the end of it, I have a good washer and dryer set, and they work perfectly. There's still quite a few parts that can be found for washers, dryers, refrigerators, and more from the 80s and even the early 90s. Sometimes you can find parts for the older models too, but it can be hit or miss. But a lot of them are still available. I finally cleaned out my metal kitchen drawer. Probably not too far off. And I'll end today's show with this. My curfew was lightning bugs. My parents didn't call my cell, they yelled my name. I played outside, not online. If I didn't eat what Mom cooked, I didn't eat. A time that was much simpler and far better than today. If you'd like to submit content that could be shown here on the channel, you can send it to akornzstash@gmail.com. This link can also be found down below in the video description. With that said, that's it for today's show, but I'll see you guys back here on tomorrow's show. Until then, I thank you all for watching. You guys take care and stay safe this weekend. This is Akorn, over and out. This video here was sent in by a viewer, and I just want to say up front, it is AI generated. And there is some mistakes and some weird quirks, but I still thought it was an interesting little clip.
Dude, it's the 80s. Let me show you just how unbreakable we were.
We could recite all of our friends' and family's phone numbers by heart, and it was a must-have skill for surviving the 80s.
On road trips, we'd just sit in the back of the van without a seatbelt. If we wanted to see a movie, we had to check the newspaper in advance for the showtimes. We'd flip through the TV guide every day to make sure we didn't miss our favorite shows.
If we needed to call our parents to pick us up, we had to search for a payphone on the street.
Just seeing a slow cooker would make our mouths water. Finally, something tasty to eat.
Spending a penny on a piece of gum at the corner store was no big deal, fresh or not. Yep, this was our everyday life in the 80s. What's 2025 like for you?